Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. We are here again tonight on the evening of the 120th day since a so-called whistleblower, and people know why I'm fond of the term so-called whistleblower, David Grusch, made some rather out-of-this-world, really incredible claims that the government was in possession of both alien technology and alien biologics, alien bodies, non-human. He wasn't saying they were extraterrestrial, even though he kept referencing spaceships. So we are on the eve tonight, my friends, of 120 days. Count them, 120 days. And there has been absolutely zero evidence to support those fantastical claims has come forward. But don't you worry, that has not stopped many people from making money off of this story. We can recognize those people as, profiteers, because, I don't understand how much money are we going to make off of this guy who says these things, but somehow is unable or unwilling to actually prove them. And we've talked in great detail before about how I feel about the use of the term whistleblower. News Nation famously said, we are calling him the UFO whistleblower. In almost every other case that you see of whistleblowing, first of all, there's consequences for that whistleblowing, and those consequences don't include book deals and documentary film deals and lucrative speaking engagements. They usually involve some form of punishment. Here, we don't see that. Although there are claims of some form of retaliation against him, those waters are very murky, muddy, and unclear. But what we do see is that he's getting deals. And we famously reported that Mr. Grusch had gotten a documentary film deal before he was even known publicly, before he ever went public with his claims. And let's be clear, what Mr. Grusch has done has made claims. He has not proven any of the claims that he has made, at least not. I don't believe so. And now this is where the story begins to unravel, because the more public appearances this person makes, the more content is generated with him at the center of it, the more we start to see some really big inconsistencies in some of his statements. So over the weekend, it appears that our friend is back. One moment here. One moment. All right, I've yelled at Mr. Cricket to stop cricking. Yeah. So over the weekend, there has been a documentary film made about Mr. Grusch. And, here's where language is important. Just as calling this man a UFO whistleblower, I don't believe is appropriate, since what is he blowing the whistle on? He's saying, some people told me some stories and I'm going to repeat them. Great. Can we see the evidence that those stories you're claiming are true are actually true? Well, I can't show you. That's all classified. But according to DOPSR, which is the Office of Pre-Publication for the Department of Defense, alien bodies is not classified, and neither are alien spaceships. So he could provide more specifics. He could provide a great deal more details. He, my friends, is choosing not to provide details, hiding behind things being classified, when the DOPSR and DOD have already said that's not classified. You can talk about that. So why can't he give us any more specifics? Could it be because he's already screwed up and provided specifics of one case that he claims is proof of the recovery of alien bodies that turns out to be a completely and totally hoaxed, fake story? So I guess I'm wrong. He has put forth evidence. He's put forth evidence that is fake. This man is not a whistleblower. So when we get into language, also someone calling something a documentary, when they have zero evidence, we can talk in great length and detail about this so-called evidence. It's an evidence-less documentary. I, for one, I don't understand how you create an entire documentary and you just forget, oh, there's no evidence of this, but we're going to call this a documentary. I think that is extremely problematic for multiple reasons. First of all, why are you even jumping in and attempting to profit off this man's story if we're already at 120 days and he has provided little or zero, some would say, evidence that his claims are actually true? So far, we've got a guy with, a military background and an intelligence background who is claiming that, and again, he has no firsthand knowledge, hasn't seen anything himself with his own eyes, but people told him that this is true and he's repeated it. And, everything is getting very, very muddy. What we have here, I believe, is a problem of layers of deception. And I have to admit, if I was going to create an alien or UFO whistleblower grift, this is a great way to do it. You put a guy out with high level clearances. First of all, you claim that he's not mental. Then it turns out, well, maybe he is mental because he spent time in a mental institution. Then you deflect any criticism away from him, claiming that he has post-traumatic stress disorder. Then you create multiple stories and explanations for how or why he got post-traumatic stress disorder. That's one of the issues brought up in this new so-called documentary. Previously, Mr. David Grusch has claimed that he got post-traumatic stress disorder because a friend of his committed suicide. But in this recent documentary, now he claims, no, I got post-traumatic stress disorder while I was in combat in Afghanistan and a friend of mine was blown up. So I'm a little confused. Is this the same friend that killed themselves? Did he blow himself up, or is this a separate issue? And in all fairness to Mr. Grusch, I would certainly recognize that he may have just misspoken, but wouldn't a clarifying statement from him be in order here? Did you get post-traumatic stress from your friend's suicide or from getting blown up and being in combat? And by the way, for all we know, it could be he got that post-traumatic stress disorder from a combination of both. And I'm not minimizing any suffering that this man may have, undergone as a result of serving in a war. But there's an issue with that as well, because many different people that are familiar with the military and intelligence have contacted me and told me that how incredibly rare it is for an Air Force intelligence officer to see any level of combat. Mr. Grusch now claims that he was in combat, but there's a problem with that, and that is that the timeline is something doesn't make sense. But again, just as the supporters of Mr. Grusch have sort of attacked anybody that questions his post-traumatic stress disorder narrative, now we're told we're not allowed to question the war hero narrative that he is telling. He's the one making claims. He claims that he was in combat in Afghanistan outside of the wire, which means, generally outside of the safety of a secure base. He was outside the wire. He saw combat and one of his friends was blown up. Well, I reached out to the Air Force media relations person, the public information officer, asking for some confirmation that Mr. Grusch has indeed seen combat and one of his friends was blown up on a mission he went on outside the so-called wire. I have yet to hear back from that office of the Air Force, but as soon as we do, I will certainly report whatever it is they say, whether they'll confirm it, deny it, or have no comment. This is where things get problematic for somebody who is making these claims. Is it not acceptable to question where was he in combat? And again, I'm not saying that he is being dishonest or deceitful here, but I am putting forth the notion, because it's been put forth to me by many, many people in the know, that it is incredibly rare for any intelligence officer, especially an Air Force intelligence officer, to see actual combat or be involved in missions outside of the wire. Usually, I'm told that they're in a very secure location behind the scenes of any actual combat, and they are performing their duties, analyzing intelligence coming in or finding intelligence for the people that are actually in the combat situations. But again, I want to make sure that I strongly, make sure you understand that I'm not saying he's being deceitful about his claims of being a combat veteran or seeing action behind behind enemy lines or outside the wire. And I'm not doing that. All I'm putting forth is, if you're going to make that claim, shouldn't he have to prove that claim? But what we see here is a sort of letting off of the hook. Well, he doesn't have to prove that he was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. He could provide his medical documentation from his own doctor with a diagnosis of that and prove that claim. He refuses to so far. He could show us the DOPSR document. He refuses to so far. He could prove that he was in combat in Afghanistan or that one of his friends was blown up. He has refused to do so far. So it's interesting to me that all the people that are so willing to give this man a pass on his out of this world alien claims, having no evidence, are also, we're also now being told that we have to give him a pass on his earthly claims. And I'm here to tell you, we have done extensive research into 14 other whistleblowers. And I see giving people a pass for having no evidence for claims as a problem in all 14 of these previous cases of so-called UFO whistleblowers, all of which profited tremendously from coming forward, calling themselves a UFO whistleblower or having other people call them a UFO whistleblower, making tons of money on their stories, but never actually providing the proof or evidence that those claims are true as they state. Those 14 other so-called UFO whistleblowers were all given passes. You don't have to provide any evidence. Just tell us these wonderful stories of alien visitation on Earth that we love so much and make all the money that you can. Who cares about evidence? But what we see, and this is why my points about Grusch's earthly claims are incredibly important. What we see, and history is our greatest teacher, what we see in some of those previous cases of UFO whistleblowers is that they were given a pass on providing evidence of even earthly claims. If you're going to claim that you were a combat veteran in Afghanistan, you should prove it. If you were going to claim a friend of yours got blown up, you should prove it. If you're going to claim that you were on combat missions outside of the wire, you should prove it. And just as in those 14 previous cases, it seems that those willing souls, those true believers are just willing to say he doesn't have to prove that. And I'm getting attacked already. Oh, he shouldn't have to prove that to you. Who are you? He's a public figure making statements about his military record. That should be important here to establish that he actually did those things. And also, wouldn't it bolster his credibility to say, hey, he was a combat veteran and he talked about that, and here's the proof of that in the form of his DD-214. For those unaware, a DD-214 is a document that gives your detailed entire history insofar as your military service. It'll show where you were stationed at, what you did, accommodations, promotions. It is a very detailed record. If he truly was in combat missions in Afghanistan, that would be included in his documentation, which he could provide to everyone. And by the way, I believe that he should. I think that he should provide proof of his earthly claims, because then at least we could say, well, he's been truthful about his claims so far. But that's not what we get. What we get is excuses for why it is that he just cannot prove these things. So are we giving him a pass? If we're going to give him a pass on the alien claims, I guess we might as well just give him a pass on the earthly claims that are easy to prove. Those are easy to prove. You can get a couple of get a document from your doctor, copy that section of his DD-214 that outlines his military claims and combat claims and make them public. And what about the Dobser letter? He's free to make this Dobser letter public. And so we could see what he answered. There's a reason he won't do that. And I believe it's because he answered differently in the document than he did in the actual interview with this Ross Coulthard. And I don't want to continue to repeat myself over and over and over again. And throughout our continued coverage of the Grusch story, by the way, I've committed to continue to cover him until there's some sort of resolution. But I will say this, 120 days now, and there's still no evidence. That's 4 months, right? So remember what I said at the start of this. At the very start of this, on June 5th or thereabouts, maybe June 6th or 7th, when we covered the original article about him in the debrief, one of the points I brought up is these are very, very incredible claims. And by the way, they're claims that I would love to see somebody show evidence or proof of and claim definitively with smoking gun evidence. But what I said at the time, back in June, beginning of June, was how long? There's no evidence so far. And how long is this guy going to continue to grift, if it is indeed a grift? That hasn't been clearly established. But how long is he going to continue to keep, making money? Apparently, I believe he's probably being paid for the News Nation interview. He's probably being paid for these documentary projects. We're aware that he made documentary film deals before he ever became a public figure. So, what I asked back in June is the same thing I asked to all these guys that have no evidence. There are people, one of the latest whistleblowers we covered, it came to mind. Some individuals have made money for 8 years now and telling their stories, and they still have not provided any evidence or any proof of the first claims that they made, or let's just say the first stories that they told. And remember, I'm fond of this saying, and I believe it's very important. These are not people that are telling stories. Well, they are, but these are people that are selling stories. They're selling these stories. And in fairness to Mr. Grusch, I believe that Mr. Grusch may be getting taken advantage of by UFO profiteers who are pushing him into the limelight because they know they could sell this story. But what I asked back in June is, how long is he going to keep going before he provides evidence of his original claim? Now, in several examples of these previous whistleblowers, I can show you that they went for years and years and years. Some of them are still going, telling news stories, but they haven't provided the evidence or proof of their very first stories. So how long does Mr. Grusch get to continue? And by the way, I'm going to say it, these people around him are grifty. Only a grifty, clickbait merchant would sell his story, maybe do one story, considering he has no evidence. But what we're seeing here is that they just keep pushing this narrative, and everybody's making money off of this. Leslie Kean and Blumenthal, I believe they made money off of this, but I'd have to verify with them. I have not done so, in fairness to them. For sure, Ross Coulthard has made money off of this. Jeremy Corbell has made money off of this. George Knapp has made money off of this. And now we're seeing other content creators come in and produce whole documentaries with this guy. Oh, just one problem. There's no evidence at all in this entire documentary that his original claims are actually true stories as he claimed. Now, there are all kinds of excuses. all kinds of excuses about why he can't provide the proof or evidence. People are claiming that's classified, and he gave that classified information to the Intelligence Community Inspector General. Then why then, when a congressperson, Tim Burchett, demanded that that evidence be shared with them, that the Intelligence Community Inspector General said he has no information to share? So we're being told that he gave all this information to the Intelligence Community Inspector General. I believe it's the Intelligence Community, the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community's responsibility to clarify. Did David Grusch give him the names of all these people? Were they interviewed, and are you investigating? Now, true believers will say, they didn't say they weren't investigating, so that means they are. No, it doesn't. A definitive statement from the Intelligence Community Inspector General will say it's his responsibility to confirm or deny that. Until somebody gets an on-the-record comment from him, it's irresponsible for you to claim he's investigating Mr. Grusch's claims without evidence of that. But don't let things like facts and evidence get in the way of a good story you could sell. I haven't done the math, friends, but I think it would be a fair estimate to say, I think this is completely a fair thing. It would be fair to say that Mr. Grusch has, Mr. Grusch and all the people profiting from his story have already made into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. How would they do that? Well, everybody's making monetized videos about him. And by the way, in full disclosure, pardon the pun, so am I. Well, our videos are monetized until they get demonetized, usually about halfway through our live streams. And by the way, I still believe that there's a thumb on the scale, because if you want to make a documentary, call it a documentary starring Dave Grusch with absolutely no evidence in it, you can be monetized. You can make all the ad revenue you can, and that is perfectly permissible. However, if you make a video critical of Dave Grusch's claims, as we have here, your videos get demonetized. Now, I don't want to claim there's some vast conspiracy here, but why is that? Isn't that interesting? And by the way, just to be clear and factually accurate, once I filed the appeal, up to 7 days later after I filed the appeal, when our Dave Grusch videos have gotten demonetized, yeah, they turn it back on, but by then all the views are gone. So is there a thumb on the scale here? Is this narrative being pushed? And please, everybody, God, please recognize and understand that these are intelligence people. They know how to run psyops, intelligence people. That's their jobs often, right? Especially CIA Lou. His job was to be in counterintelligence. What do? They lie to people. They're excellent liars, counterintelligence people and intelligence people. So I don't know that this is some official government narrative or psyop or, narrative being pushed for whatever some would say nefarious purposes, perhaps. But, I will say that I believe that there's a thumb on the scale, because why can you make all the videos you want, being a cheerleader for Dave Grusch and his alien claims, but if you're critical of that, they get demonetized. Now, in fairness, the same can be said for this Nazca mummy story. If you want to make proof of aliens and clickbait the hell out of it and make a video claiming those Nazca mummies are, real aliens, fully monetized, make a video critical of them and see what happens to your video. We may have stumbled upon something here, and I feel like we should do our due diligence and do like more research into this situation. So I've got a bunch of things to share with you about this recent appearance. But before we get into that, I want to bring up again this issue that we're not allowed to question Mr. Grusch and any of the claims that he made. The researcher on Twitter, Jeff Knox, you guys are familiar with him. I've shared a lot of his stuff in the past. And, you know, he showed Dave Grusch's own resume seems to conflict with his claims of being in combat in Afghanistan. And if his own resume seems to conflict with that, shouldn't he have to prove that claim? And he's getting attacked for even asking the questions. You're not allowed to answer these, to ask these questions. And I think that's really, really problematic. We're not allowed to ask questions. You know, when I get slagged for saying how cult-like some things are. Yeah, this is completely cult-like, because you know where else you're not allowed to ask a question? In a cult. You just believe what the dear leader tells you. You're not allowed to ask questions, apparently. And that's incredibly problematic, if you ask me. If you're going to go and become a public figure, and by the way, I'm aware that Stephen Colbert just made a joke about Dave Grusch in his opening monologue, as if we needed any more proof that Dave Grusch is now a public figure. If you're going to become a public figure and make absolutely out of this world fantastical claims, people have the right to ask you questions, especially when it appears that something's not right between your resume and your claims of being an Afghanistan war hero who went on combat missions, quote, outside the wire, unquote. I think that's incredibly important. And here, I'm going to share this. I'm just going to share this. By the way, for those that have mentioned or recognized, first, let's welcome all the live chats. Hey, we welcome you, you wonderful YouTube live chatters, Rumble chatters, Twitter chatters, Facebook Live people, the Twitch chat, pill.net. No matter where you're listening, welcome. We welcome and recognize all of you. A great attendance here in the live chats tonight, and happy to see that. Oh, but before we begin tonight's presentation about all of this, I just want to make sure that I recognize, because if I don't, I'll get attacked again, you know, by a bitter, angry little man. There was some recent controversy about some content made by one Ryan Gable, who we brought here and interviewed here, I believe twice. And I went on his show. I'm not sure if it was once or twice, and I apologize for that. I have addressed those things, and then also people are asking a great deal of questions. You may have noticed some changes to our channel, including the deletion, privating, or just the absence of all of our Corey Good related material. I've explained that in a separate video, and we're going to be doing a premiere for that video, I think at midnight tonight. So after tonight's show, I will, before this broadcast ends, I will get the link and put it in the live chat. It may be available. Let me just check in with our YouTube channel. And for those unaware, I have an office and set upstairs, and then we have this new set now. So I'm kind of been bouncing back and forth. So I uploaded the video from my office. Not sure if it's there yet. Oh, yes, it is. So let me share that. Just let me go over to, I have to go over to our actual YouTube live chat to share this link, but I'm going to do that right now. And I welcome you to hear more about those situations. I just decided, I said I would do it on the next live show. I just decided to do it in its own video. Because some people don't care about other show hosts trying to drum up drama or damage our show's reputation here with lies. And if that's the case, and by the way, I don't even want to say that, not damage our reputation with lies, but let's just leave it at damage our reputation, even though that person has lied about our show multiple times now. Including this latest fake outrage. But I do agree that it's worth a little bit of outrage when you understand the situation. I've explained it all in this new video. I'm going to just put link to tonight's later video, and we're going to do that at midnight, and I'm going to pin it into the YouTube live chat. I apologize. I can't, I can't. Oh, there's our friend again. I apologize that I'm in the middle of a live broadcast. I'm not going to put it in all the live chats. Most of you are in the YouTube live chat, so I'm going to link that pinned in the description of the video. I just decided to do it in a separate video because some people don't care about this drama that I do believe somebody's trying to drum up, although I agree that that guest's stance on certain things, including World War II history, is absolutely condemnable, and I did so in that video. So if you want to hear more about that situation, we're going to have a separate video premiere tonight. And I also explain the situation with the Corey Good videos and what happened to those. It's all explained in that. Please join me later. Along with my cricket friend. And by the way, I've driven myself nuts. I'm running around here. I moved everything, trying to find out where this thing is. Can't find him. But I believe I did find out where he got in. So I fixed that. All right, we're going to get into this Dave Grusch situation. 1 second here. So this is Jeff Knox, a UFO researcher, who asks, how exactly was Grusch doing combat missions outside of the wire in 2013 and getting blown up with a friend? He was working in the Space Test Squadron in Colorado Springs in 2013. You know, this is important. I think that's a valid question. If his own resume shows that he was working, his own resume does not mention combat missions in Afghanistan in 2013. What it does mention is that he was working in the Space Test Squadron in Colorado Springs in 2013. And Jeff goes on to ask, since when does a rear echelon Air Force desk jockey do combat missions outside the wire? Makes no sense. He goes on to say, I mean, it makes no sense to me. Air Force personnel are doing doing ground combat missions in Afghanistan in the first place, let alone a guy who wasn't a soldier, but an intel and tech guy working for the 3rd Space Experimentation Squad in Colorado Springs. Go kicks rocks, and I thought the friend that killed him, that died, killed himself. Here he said he was blown up. Is it two different friends? So, yeah. And of course, the fake account, Richard Butt, who many people say is either Lou Elizondo's wife or somebody else close to Lou Elizondo, is still defending this. Jeff Knox asks, what unit was he in? Why was he deployed out of his Space Test Squadron in Colorado he was assigned to for all of 2012 and 2013? What was he doing there in Afghanistan? Why would the Air Force intel guy be doing ground combat operations? We just want answers. I have forgotten nothing. Complained to Grusch. And here he shows Grusch's resume for September 2011 to December 2013. If he went to Afghanistan in 2013, it was for something else and a short trip. It wasn't to be a combat soldier because Grusch was never in combat. Now, this is according to Jeff Knox. I'm not saying that Grusch was never in combat, but I am agreeing with I think he went a little far here, but I am agreeing with Mr. Knox in that I believe that if you're going to claim that you were in doing ground combat missions in Afghanistan when your resume says you were somewhere else at the time, you should have to explain that discrepancy. And here is his resume. And what it says is between September 2011 and December 2013, he was Intelligence Flight Commander, 3rd Space Experimentation Squadron. And what he did there, he was Intel Lead for Air Force Space Command, now USSF's premier organization for space-based demonstrations, pathfinders, and experiment testing. The unit identifies concepts of employment, training, education, and technical skill sets that are required to field selected future space missions. TCPED Developer Lead for Stand Up for Geosynchronous Space Situational Awareness Program, GSSAP, pre-launch and supported X-37B OV program. So, you know, there does appear to be a huge discrepancy here. why is being in combat missions in Afghanistan not on his resume at all? I would think that you'd be proud of your combat experience in Afghanistan and you would put it on your resume. But what we see is it's not on his resume. In fact, according to his own resume, he wasn't in Afghanistan during this time period. He was somewhere else. Now, could he have been in two places, or could he have left this post to go do a secret mission in Afghanistan? Sure. But here's where things get dicey, because just like Elizondo, loves showing pictures of him and himself in a combat uniform, these people make a lot of claims. I think if you're going to claim that you're a war hero or a combat veteran, you should prove it, especially when there's public information that he himself put out that may contradict that that's true. It's important that we set the record straight here, right? Lady Blah Blah says, everyone knows Steven is an AOC fangirl. I can't lie. I do happen to think she's very attractive, but I think that girl's dumb as rocks. That's just my personal opinion, and I'm entitled to it. Yeah. So what is the deal with the military claims? Is it just that an army, or excuse me, this secret agent thing that we see from so many of them? They like to make people believe that they were in on these secret missions and things. It's really kind of laughable to me that, if you're going to say you're a combat veteran, I don't think you should have a problem. I have never met or encountered a real combat veteran that had any problem proving that he was a combat veteran. Yet Grusch seems to be failing at actually providing evidence or proof of his claims. So, I am really at a loss here, because if it was one or the other, like if there was no evidence, but we haven't shown him to be pushing false information before, I would let it go. But what we've got here is a combination of 120 days where the man has not provided any evidence. And then we have to add to that he has pushed hoaxes as true stories already, provably. He has perhaps lied when he was asked if he had any mental problems. After all, post-traumatic stress disorder is a mental problem. He has literally been caught lying already. Now we've got this situation where he claims he was in combat missions in Afghanistan. At the same time, his resume says he was in Colorado, a world away. So it's extremely problematic. This whole situation is problematic to me. And, hey, is it okay that I ask how much money is everybody going to make before they actually have to provide evidence that the stories are true or stop making the money? Is it a reasonable request of mine to say maybe you guys should stop cashing in on this story until you can prove some of the claims being made here? Apparently that is too much to ask. You're not allowed to say that, you're not allowed to say that, some of these people may be being less than honest here, even though there's no evidence or proof that they're being honest, even though you can prove that they lied before, even though you can prove that there's a great deal of conflicting statements here concerning this man's history and the public claims that he's making about being a combat veteran. And by the way, I hope that I am proven wrong and that there is some evidence or proof put forward that this person was in a combat position in Afghanistan. Now, we're going to put our fair use banner up here, and we'll be sharing some things from this so-called documentary. One second. So this is fair use. It's a transformative work. We're educating the public, and we're critiquing the video that we are sharing. Let me bring that up, friends, and we're going to hear about his combat claims. I'm sharing this from Jessica's Twitter. Here we go.
During that investigation, I had a lot of pushback that was very unfortunate, reprisals against me and stuff. And, And that kind of was what led me to file the whistleblower complaint. A, for my own protection, but B, was to kind of sound the alarm. They tried to claim all these things against me, conduct-wise, mental health, and all this other unfortunate stuff. I was in combat in Afghanistan in 2013.
So there we have it. He was in combat in Afghanistan in 2013. I'd like to hear more about that.
I was on convoys outside the wire.
He was on convoys outside the wire. That is a claim that the Air Force should confirm or deny, as well as his claims of being an Afghanistan combat veteran.
I had a friend die, got blown up, and all this other stuff. Baggage that I had for 2-3 years after coming back. And
a friend dying, getting blown up. And by the way, if that indeed happened to him, I feel for him. That is a horrific thing to have to go through. All right, let's continue this. I apologize.
I got diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder.
All right.
Treatment. I got help. Good to go, but
yeah. So I'm sorry for the buffering. He's claiming here that
there's an agency that tried to dig that back up and say, oh, Dave still has ongoing issues.
Yeah, well, just so everybody is aware, it is a normal course of events, and it is very reasonable to expect that if you have mental problems and you are a person who has access to governmental secrets, they will review that situation. That doesn't mean they're retaliating. That means they're following the usual policies and procedures around those issues.
Unmitigated, we need to pull his clearance. And then I had to show my medical records and be like, no, dude, I sought treatment, still do, because that's what you do. And they tried to use that against me.
So here is also a problem, because he's asked in the original News Nation interview if he has any mental problems, and he says no. And here he admits that he is still in ongoing treatment for his mental problems. So if you're in ongoing treatment for your mental problems and somebody asks you, do you have any mental problems? The appropriate answer is not no. That would be a lie. That's what we would call that. If you are having any kind of mental problem, including post-traumatic stress disorder, and you're still seeking treatment for it, and somebody asks you if you have any mental problems, the appropriate or honest answer is not no. And by the way, News Nation, last I checked, they cut that section out of the original interview. They cut the section where he lied about not having mental problems out of the original interview. That's a problem.
It's crazy. I spent basically 2 years fighting that battle.
Oh, I'm sorry for this.
Appealed it, won it, cleared of all allegations, and I still have my security clearance.
That's another problem for him right there. There have been various claims that he couldn't go in his skiff and give those congressmen all of the evidence that he had because he no longer had clearance. There have been some discussion of his clearance being suspended or revoked. But here he says he got back his clearance and he still has his clearance. Then why won't they let him in a skiff? Why did they say he's not cleared and he can't be cleared on a one-time basis if he still has his clearance? So here's where things get interesting, friends. Things begin to get interesting when people make conflicting statements. And so far, Mr. Grusch has made several conflicting statements. And hey, we want to recognize some kind and generous people in the live chat. I'm sorry I missed them earlier. Just so everybody's aware, we read, thank, acknowledge every single person that sends a super chat. We read every single one. I'm not here. This isn't happening, which, by the way, I have to follow him on Twitter. I'm light on people I follow, just so people are aware, just to keep my feed to a minimum. I don't follow many people. He's worth it. He says, I've been keeping a tally. Tomorrow, I'll be asking the question. Does ufology have a diversity problem? Where are the minority UFO experts and advocates? Well, there is a few, but you're right. And I would agree with you. And that's a kind and generous £9.99, £9.99. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. I'm not here. This isn't happening. We appreciate you. Thanks for appreciating us. And then we also have Nick Kreitman with a kind and generous $9.99 super chat. American money. We like that. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support, Nick Kreitman. He says, I'm sure you'll get to it, but he said in the doc he still had clearance, so he didn't lose it. Oh, good timing. Look, we just got to it right before I read this for you. So, but excellent question. So he didn't lose it. What was the retaliation? Being told to stop chasing nonsense like Lou and get back to the day job? Yeah. But according to him, he was sent on a mission to find the aliens by his superiors. And so that's problematic. Why are people in the government wasting money looking for UFOs and aliens? And yeah, I agree with you that the so-called retaliation could also have come from hanging out with people that the United States government knows is getting and leaking classified information, allegedly, in the form of Jeremy Corbell. You listen, let's get into that situation. And thank you, Nick Kreitman, for your kindness, generosity, and support. Just so everybody's aware, if you're on a Navy ship, you're not allowed to film like radar screens during active operations inside the ship's command center and then send that to Jeremy Corbell to make money off of selling fake alien stories or any stories. You're not allowed to do that. That would be illegal. Why isn't there an investigation into this? And why is Jeremy Corbell taking government-sponsored, government-paid-for videos and slapping his copyright on them? Is he getting royalty payments from all of the news outlets that are playing those government-funded videos? And should he be able to do that? I'll continue to ask that question. I believe I emailed that question to Jeremy Corbell's contact email from his so-called podcast. Crickets, no reply. And I think isn't that a valid question? It's just, so for people unaware, Jeremy Corbell is getting videos that were paid for or material that was paid for by United States taxpayer money, tax funded, from the government. Then he slaps a copyright or a trademark or his watermark on it, and then those things are being played nonstop on news channels, and I want to know if he's getting a royalty from that, and should he? After all, it's government funded. He doesn't own the right to profit from that, but he is. So Dave Grusch is hanging out with them. These people doing this. Could the retaliation have been simply caution? Listen, if you know one of your intelligence assets in the form of an intelligence officer is hanging out with people who are receiving leaked government documents, videos, whatever, and then publishing them, you would investigate. Maybe he just got investigated because he's hanging out with those kind of people just to be sure that he wasn't one of the sources. And by the way, I'm still not convinced that he's not one of the sources that gave some of that material to Corbell or Knapp or whoever. He may have been. For all we know, he could have been. So there's just a few more clips that I did want to make sure that we share with you. I think, this whole, they're going to regret putting this documentary out because now they gave people like me a whole bunch of new data points. Now I got to go ask the government, does Dave Grusch, does he still have his clearance or did he lose it? Because he's made conflicting statements or confusing statements here about this. And I think that it would be important for the government to help resolve these discrepancies. Which is it? Does he still have his clearance or not? And if he doesn't have his clearance, why did he or his supporters claim they wouldn't give him a skiff because he's not cleared or he can't be cleared? He still has his clearances, according to him. This is the muddied waters of a UFO story. And, it's kind of unfortunate that this stuff has just festered like this and the government won't get more directly involved to, squash the disinformation. If this person, Dave Grusch, is lying or giving false or inaccurate information, I think that the government should be required to confirm or deny that what he's saying is truthful and accurate. I don't understand why they're not more active in this situation, right? And then, of course, we get one of my favorite grifters, alleged grifters, Gary Nolan, who often lends or sells his credibility to documentary film producers and content producers so that they can sell their wares. You can come here and film at Stanford. I'm still confused about the code of ethics issue at Stanford. He's not supposed to use university labs, equipment, personnel to profit. Was he paid to be in the documentary? And by the way, I'm not saying that he was paid, but he should have to answer a question, were you paid or not? And then a follow-up question would be, isn't that against the university's code of ethics? According to the Stanford University Code of Ethics, he's not supposed to use university labs, equipment, or personnel to profit. And we asked that question before, and I was told that I was, he basically talked down to me like a child and said he wasn't going to answer my questions because I'm spreading conspiracy theories about him. No, I'm not. I'm just asking questions. And I will repeat my often repeated mantra, and that is, the only people who fear questions are people with something to hide. So now we have Gary Nolan chiming in this documentary, and this brings up more problems for the true believers too. And let's get into that.
Whether it's real or not, it's a phenomenon that multiple people experience. Enough people have experienced it that, as we were talking earlier, asking the question about it is going to lead to an answer no matter what, and it's going to be an interesting answer. If it's some sort of delusion, why do people have the delusion? That's the easy way to explain
That's better.
it away.
Sorry about that.
But if it has some kind of reality, that's even more interesting. So, it's worth asking.
Why do you think we've shut down every person that have tried to ask these questions up until a couple of years ago?
People
Nobody's shut
have
down.
a mindset about what reality
People can answer any question they want.
You could probably go 1,000 years ago to a village somewhere and say, hey, there's a bunch of people who live in the next village, or that on an island somewhere, and they don't look like us. And you would get a lot of people going, oh, I don't believe it, because it's effort to change your worldview or to use your brain. And so I think that's just it's built into our psyche.
Yeah, people don't believe in aliens.
Inherently conservative.
They're lazy.
There's something worth studying here. It is not understandable in human terms. I look at something like that and I say, wow, okay, I can now imagine all kinds of different possibilities of what it might be, which as a scientist gets me excited. I don't mind a critic. I just don't want the position to shut them down and not ask the question in the first place, because that is what holds everybody back.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. So he doesn't mind a critic unless it's me. I'm not allowed to ask about the Stanford University ethics situation and his apparent use of university labs, equipment, and personnel to profit. And by the way, I mentioned that there's going to be more problems because of statements made in this documentary. This is where things get even more problematic, because Gary Nolan is claiming that he has all of these materials in his possession, and those materials came from UFOs. But of course, then there's the conflation of UFO with alien spacecraft. They don't really specify, is it just an unidentified flying object, or are you saying it was alien? All these claims of materials in his possession, and by the way, some of those materials became in his possession from Jacques Vallée. And there's a great deal, people have a great deal of respect for Jacques Vallée, and they, he's sort of revered. But we have to understand and recognize that Jacques Vallée has been caught profiting from and pushing a complete and totally fake story in the form of the Trinity UFO crash. In fact, he refuses to admit that the story is fake, even after overwhelming evidence that his primary witness is a bullshitting, fairy tale huckstering storyteller. He's the same person, a man named William Brophy, that is behind the claims of alien bodies with this Italian UFO crash, the only evidence of which is hoax documents that no one can substantiate or real documents. So this is the problem with the UFO thing, and we see it so many different times. What we've got is one person with questionable, unproven evidence reinforcing another person with questionable, unproven evidence. So Gary Nolan is essentially claiming, I'm in possession of materials from UFOs, and I got them from Jacques Vallée. Great, you got those materials from a hoax promoter. Shouldn't that mean that the scrutiny around those materials should be really hypervigilant instead of just accepting that they came from a UFO? And to be fair to Mr. Nolan, I haven't seen his analysis. But what people need to be aware of when we get into these people making claims of UFO debris is that I've talked to material scientists about this just to be sure that the information I'm about to give you is accurate, and I believe it is. If, my friends, and that's a big if any element comes from another star system, not Earth or Sol system, our star system, let's just, for an example, pretend that we have a sample of aluminum that we are claiming, or somebody is claiming, comes from an alien spacecraft. That's aluminum, but it's not Earth aluminum, it's alien aluminum. They would easily be able to prove that claim with scientific equipment that exists currently. And there's another issue, and that is that Gary Nolan is not a materials scientist. He's not an engineer. He's not a chemist. He's not qualified to, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, he is a biologist. He's an immunologist. He's certainly qualified in those scientific areas, but it's like going to a foot doctor for heart surgery. These disciplines, you go to the person with the proper education, training, and discipline to do the work required. You don't go to an immunologist and have an immunologist do materials analysis. But welcome to the circus of UFOs. Oh, he's a scientist. So great. And again, a very important point to make here is that if we're in possession of, again, we'll use aluminum as an example. If we're in possession of aluminum, then we would be able to do an analysis of that material with currently available scientific equipment, and then we would be able to determine that it came from another star system. And that, my friends, is because the element would be very similar. If let's put two elements next to each other, and one element came from our star system, and the other element came from a nearby, but not our star system, a different sun. The isotopic ratios of those elements would be different from Earth. Therefore, we would be able to clearly determine that this aluminum material that we're claiming came from a UFO, or with that conflation thing, we really mean alien spacecraft. We would be able to prove definitively 100% with currently available science that aluminum came from another star system. To my knowledge, no one making all kinds of fantastical claims about UFO debris or metamaterials or metal materials from crash debris or anything like that has ever proven that metal came from a different star system, even though it would be easy to prove and establish that with currently available materials science. You would have to do, you know, you would have to put it in a machine that can determine elemental, you know, composition, and also examine the isotopic ratios of that material to determine, did it come from Earth's star system, or is the isotopic ratios different? And therefore, this aluminum came from an alien star system. We would be able to tell that instantly. Instantly. I'm told it's 20 minutes in a machine, and you could know the definitive results of that. So why then are people constantly making claims? Oh, it might be alien, this material that I have. Great. Prove it. Show us the mass spectrometer analysis with isotopic ratios that prove that this metal is from an alien star system. And by the way, I would love that if people could prove that. Why then does nobody ever prove it? What we get is a lot of claims. And remember, TTSA, the techno scam people, Lou Elizondo and Tom DeLong and all those people, they apparently got $1 million contracts from the United States government claiming they were in possession of so-called exotic materials. And I'm not, to the best of my knowledge or recollection, I'm not sure that they came out and said this was from alien spacecraft, but they implied it heavily. And then they got $1 million plus contract with, I believe it was the United States Army, to study that material. And this was arts parts, something that has been disproven as a hoax multiple times. But don't let things like facts and evidence, you can't let things like facts and evidence get in the way of a good story that you can sell. It's a real problem. And then, you know, the rest of this documentary was largely a big nothing burger. It was Dave Grusch repeating talking points that anybody familiar with the UFO subject matter has seen time and time and time again, right? Here we have him answering questions about why the U.S. and its allies won't, you know, let go the secrets of aliens and UFOs.
And this is coming as somebody who's a bit of a skeptic. I understand that the U.S., Russia, and China are very, very good at like secrecy and maintaining that area of secrecy. But you know, there's 180 some odd countries, 190 some odd other countries.
By the way, this is a fair question.
More of this coming out from maybe other smaller countries. I mean, you mentioned Grenada, you mentioned San Marino. Yeah. Have we seen more of this? People have just been not paying attention. Has it been a lot of like forcing them into silence?
So there are certainly friendly governments both across the pond and say local to where we are landmass that are for this, and a lot of them know that they got a raw deal with the U.S. because they were basically part of the secrecy through kind of agreements, like bilateral and unilateral agreements, and they're like, you know, they kind of.
Where's the proof of those agreements?
Because they do realize it was.
Where's the proof?
Deal.
There is no proof of those agreements.
Secrecy. Some people, one of their arguments is like, "Oh, how would they keep a secret?" I'm like, dude, I was cleared to some of the nation's most sensitive programs. I used to handle the PDB. You know, I had full access to most DoD activities, and most of the stuff, broad programs that were enduring, have never leaked. So the U.S. and its allies are very good at keeping secrecies, to include programs that are, we'll say, global in nature. And really, it's been leaking like a sieve in some weird way for many decades. Now it's been mixed in with some BS.
Yeah, and here's another great part of this documentary. Here, Dave Grusch admits that the true and accurate information is often mixed in with BS. So how is it that he was able to determine that his information is the accurate information and the real UFO information and the real alien stuff and not the BS?
Ufology and stuff, but the general gist of it's actually been out there for a long time. It has been leaking in some sense.
And by the way, I just want to make sure that we mention that the government's ability to keep secrets, you know, that's not an absolute. That could be debated. How well did they keep the secrets that Snowden leaked? Not very well at all. You know, the government's ability to keep some projects secret is not proof that they've kept projects involving alien technology, alien bodies, or alien crash retrievals secret successfully. You know, just because they kept the Manhattan Project secret doesn't mean that they're keeping aliens secret. but we see this conflation of those things. And only in the world of UFOs can you make those leaps. Well, they kept the Manhattan Project secret, so they must be keeping the aliens secret. Yeah, Steve Nicholson says, even if the materials are the same as on Earth, often they can't explain how they are multiple layers of wafering and how they were formed. Yes, but just because you can't explain something, again, that's not proof that it's from aliens. And by the way, there are a tremendous amount of materials science. I keep up on a lot of science, and one of the things that I'm following very closely is graphene. Go look it up. Before you know it, we're going to have all kinds of things made out of that material. And somebody unfamiliar with it might consider that material alien. There's going to be 3D, there is 3D metal printers now. So when we talk about multiple layers, maybe it was made through a 3D printing process that you're just unfamiliar with. That doesn't mean it's automatically had to come from aliens, but this is the leap and the jump, Steve Nicholson, that many, many people make. They jump right from, well, we can't explain this, to it must be aliens. And I have a problem with that. Just because you can't explain, I can't explain quantum physics. It doesn't mean that aliens invented quantum physics. The whole UFO thing is extremely problematic. Yeah, and this is a proper comment as well. We have Tusky Looper saying, Manhattan Project was a bit of an open secret. Everyone knew Germans, Russians, and Americans were all working on it. Yeah, each country had their very own atomic program where they were trying to, and thank God that we got the bomb before the Nazis did. It might have changed the course of world history had the Nazis gotten those technological advancements before we did. And Blue Flyer says, and I agree with him 100%, the government is here to help you. Yeah, absolutely, the government is here to help you. So I've got some more things to share with you. And by the way, if I don't recognize and thank him enough, I just want to thank Mike Colangelo. And if I am mangling your name, I apologize. Or if it's Colangelo, please message me and let me know how you say your name so I don't keep mangling it. It's at Mike Colangelo. I will copy his Twitter handle into the description of this video. I thank him because he spends a lot of time creating clips, and therefore I don't anymore. I just go to his page, and most things that I need, he's already clipped. So I want to thank him and recognize him for that. I hope he doesn't mind us. And by the way, I think that Mike is an excellent example about how people who differ in their belief systems about these strange and esoteric subjects can still be friendly and get along. Mike's definitely probably more on the believer end of the spectrum. And I'm certainly more on the critical end of the spectrum, but we're not at each other's throats like some people in the so-called UFO community. We're friendly, we're okay. And I appreciate and recognize Mike for being somebody that generates things that are worthy of discussion, like these clips. This one is David Grusch talks about one UFO he interviewed that saw a 300-foot triangular craft hover over his car for a couple of minutes. And I'm here to tell you, friends, one of the things you're going to notice about the UFO, so-called UFO whistleblowers is, again, Dave Grusch never proved his original claims that he made on June 5th. The original claims that he made, he hasn't proven yet. And what you see all of these so-called UFO whistleblowers do, and you will continue to see them do it, is that they don't prove the first stories that they sold as true stories are true. And before they prove the first stories that they sold as true stories were true, they're already on to telling you news stories that they're claiming are true. And one thing you'll notice is that both sets of those stories, the first stories that Grusch told, and now these news stories that Grusch told, are equally devoid of any substantial or supportive or especially smoking gun evidence or proof that the stories are true. So, you know, and another thing that I just want to make sure that we recognize, and this is important, and that is that I'm allowed to have a problem with the fact that these patterns repeat themselves over and over and over again in UFO land. And I think that part of the problem with why people get so venomous and toxic in their belief systems is because they haven't been here long enough to see or spot these repeating patterns. And we've talked about a repeating pattern before, which I'll briefly cover again for the benefit of those that may not have heard it. The way the UFO grift goes is that you overpromise and underdeliver. You always have to over-sensationalize and over-promise. Oh, the big bomb's dropping. This guy's got all the evidence. They always overpromise on evidence. They're going to have all this evidence, and this is all going to be proven to be true. So they over-sensationalize, they overpromise, and inevitably that leads to step 2, the under-deliver stage. They don't deliver on their original promises to prove their claims to be true stories. And then inevitably we get to the big letdown. It's 120 days now. You know, how much more money is going to be made out of the Dave Grusch story before everybody says, come on, you got to show us some evidence, or you know, put the cameras down and stop collecting money off of this story that has so far no verifiable proof or evidence that has proof that this individual, Dave Grusch, lied, and proof that there are incredibly inconsistent statements being made, like about his military combat experience and things like that. I would think, you know, so I'm sorry to get off in the weeds here. So my major point here about these repeating patterns is, again, if you've been here long enough, you've seen this pattern that I've talked about. Over-sensationalize, over-promise. Step 2, they under-deliver because they hyped it too much. They didn't have the evidence they claimed that they would have, and so forth. And then the third step, we get to the big letdown when everybody, you know, we're at 120 days. I'm sorry, I hit my big letdown at 30. Maybe 60 days. I gave him a few months. You still don't have any evidence of these out of this world claims? Just somebody told you, but you can't tell us who? He can't even tell us who told him this shit. And by the way, there's a goddamn reason he can't tell us who told him this shit. Because it's people like Eric Davis. It's people like Lou Elizondo, Hal Puthoff. It's the whole grift squad, probably, or likely told him this stuff. And they don't want to tell you that that's who gave him this so-called groundbreaking information, because then you go, oh, other UFO grifters told him this stuff, not new people. We haven't seen any new people. And by the way, I could be wrong, but it's already been clearly established that, first of all, he's taken information directly from Gary Nolan, who he works for. He's taken information he's repeated directly from Lou Elizondo. You remember him, the guy who lied to the New York Times, the guy who ran an official $22 million Pentagon-funded secret UFO program in the Pentagon, except he forgot to mention that was from the Pentagon in the land of make-believe, because none of that shit ever happened. Lou Elizondo lied to everyone for years for profit. There's a reason he won't name who he interviewed, who told him these things. And I believe that reason is because they can't stand the scrutiny. Once it becomes known that he's taking information directly from people like Eric Davis, you remember him, the wackadoo wormhole scientist who the Air Force said his research was, quote, crackpot science. You remember him, right? Or Hal Puthoff, high-ranking Scientology member who was part of the TTSA techno scam, who was part of, I believe, some of the Skinwalker stuff with Bigelow, the $22 million that was scammed from the United States government so that people could study werewolves, dino beavers, poltergeists, and ghosts and demons, right? Oh, along with UFOs, though, so it was okay. He's taken information, apparently or allegedly, directly from people that have sold a lot of lies before, right? And so back to the repeating patterns, though, I keep losing my place here. The people that are so toxic towards me, I truly think, and by the way, I forgive you. I get it. You really want to believe in the aliens. I did too, man. I was all chips in on all this shit for years. You haven't been here long enough, because history is the greatest teacher. And once you recognize and understand that all of these things generally follow these similar patterns, the overpromise, the over-sensationalize, the underdeliver, and the inevitable letdown. Or another pattern that you see time and time again is that these people, they come out with absolutely out-of-this-world fantastical claims. They always claim there's all this evidence and it's all going to come out, and this time's going to be different. Now we're finally going to get disclosure. But then time goes on, and they never prove their original claims, but yet they're on to new fantastic stories about UFOs and aliens that have equally zero evidence. So do you see why I have a problem with it? Wait a minute. You're telling new fantastic stories about aliens and UFOs? Why don't you prove the first ones are true? Why don't you release the names of the so-called firsthand witnesses of this stuff? And by the way, Eric Davis is one of those people. He claimed to the New York Times, 4 years ago now, that the government was in possession of non-human spacecraft. He never proved it. Is that who told Grusch this stuff? I think so, because Eric Davis has acknowledged his relationship with Dave Grusch. According to Brian Bender, Lou Elizondo, the man who lied to the New York Times and then profited for years, claiming to run a fake government UFO program that never existed, groomed David Grusch for his current role. Isn't that a cozy relationship? And then, of course, there's Corbell, and that may have taken material from him and got him in trouble with the government for hanging out with people that are leaking, let's just call it questionable government information without, legal review or knowledge or consent of the government publishing that stuff. There's a reason he won't tell us what his sources are. So these repeating patterns are very, very important. And here, Dave Grusch proves me right again, because he hasn't proven his original claims that he made over 120 days ago. But here he is in a new documentary, and he's got new claims that have equally no evidence. Let's get to it, friends.
Be very general in this to protect this person's identity because they're still on active duty. But I remember.
Yeah. Oh, so this is coming from an anonymous source. But then again, all of Grusch's information is coming from anonymous sources. There's another red flag. Everything that he has presented so far has come from anonymous sources. Well, with the possible exception of that Italian UFO hoax that wasn't real, that was fake. We know who that came from. It came from a known bullshitter, liar, and hoaxer in the form of William Brophy.
For interviewing a guy, and I have a background in psychological analysis and other stuff to assess people, and for 3 hours, and it was a certain very senior Navy individual that saw he was going to work at a certain facility in the morning, not drunk, not high, and a 300-foot triangular craft hovered over his car for a couple minutes, and he couldn't even process what he was seeing. But then he took pictures of his car after the incident, and all the zenith upper-facing decks of his car got hit with ionizing radiation, ultraviolet, because the paint became milky. His headlights they were totally clear. His car was perfect before the incident. And I'm like, holy crap, you have physical artifacts The guy we assessed, he had a normal psychological composition, no weird belief system.
Well, he's pushing a lot of prover maneuvers here. If that's another pattern you'll notice. Oh, he wasn't high. He wasn't drunk. Yeah. And the guy was normal, right? I guess he had no mental problems too, just like was once claimed about Mr. Grusch here. But that's a story for another time.
He's just a dude that was going to work at a Navy base, and he had a freaking huge craft. At least the physical proof he provided. He drew what he saw. No sound. These weird omnidirectional lights, kind of that classic, triangle. Like, holy shit! I didn't believe in UFOs, but these guys are like, they can't be lying to me, because they certainly are credible guys that have a lot to lose. He was super scared to come forward. He didn't tell his wife for 5 years.
And even if somebody's scared to tell you their story, that's not proof that their story is true. Maybe he's scared of getting found out for being a liar. And did you hear that? These people couldn't be lying to me. That's the mark of an autistic person. And I don't want to get back in the weeds with that, but we have discussed it here in the past. This gentleman, David Grusch, is autistic. And by the way, in case anybody is unaware, I have my oldest son is incredibly affected by autism. In fact, he's what is commonly called nonverbal autistic. He does not or cannot speak, and therefore requires 24-hour a day, 7 days a week, constant care. He's very, very affected by autism. Mr. Grusch is a little more is a little more fortunate, and that's just my view. Having been the full-time caretaker of a nonverbal autistic child for some 8 years, Mr. Grusch is what would generally be considered high-functioning autism. And by the way, I'm not a doctor or an expert on autism. I'm just a dad of an autistic child and have done an incredible amount of research into autism. We cited the scientific paper. There's scientific studies that definitively prove that autistic people have a hard time telling when people are lying to them. And here we have Mr. Grusch saying, these people couldn't be lying to me. But I got attacked and vilified for citing a peer-reviewed scientific study which proves definitively that autistic people have a hard time discerning deception versus truth. They have a harder time than an unautistic person at telling when they're being lied to. And here, it's very disturbing to me. It was disturbing to me to hear him say, oh, these people couldn't be lying to me. Now, I'm not saying that's his autism. He could just be a gullible person. Just because somebody has high-ranking clearances doesn't mean they do not or could not fabricate a story like this. And if he claims there's all this scientific evidence, great. Let's see it. Let's get some paint samples. Because, fading paint on a car could be caused by an awful lot of things that are not alien or radiation. And by the way, if the car was affected by radiation, you could use a Geiger counter and there would be, some scientific evidence of that. But what we get here is just another story from yet another anonymous source. He's already claimed that he has 30 to 40 anonymous sources. I mean, now we're up to 41. Like, how many anonymous sources does he get to quote from before you finally just say, you're full of shit. Tell us who the source is so that we can interview them. Tell us who the source of your information is so that we can scrutinize their background and the claims that they are making that you are repeating. But that's not what we get here. And again, Mr. Grusch has not definitively or even at all, he's done zero to prove his original claims that he made 120 days ago. Now, here is a for-profit documentary project. Now, granted, it's not a majorly profitable. I doubt this is going to be a majorly profitable endeavor. Hope he got paid well for it, because this is just a YouTube documentary. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I've produced some documentaries of my own that I call free documentaries. They're ad supported. And by the way, I'm going to check in just to see. Now, 623,000 views. So, and by the way, I could be wrong in my analysis of this or my understanding of this, but being a YouTube content creator myself, what I can tell you is that there's a way to calculate how much money you make from every 1,000 monetized views, and it has to do with your CPM. According to my channel's analytics, our CPM is $10 per 1,000 views, which means for monetized views, for every 1,000 views we get $10. So what we have here is 623,000 views times 10. This documentary has already generated $6,230. But again, I have to preface this with saying their CPM may be different. Theirs might be $20 per 1,000. It might be 15. It might be 5. But it's enough to say that they made between $3,000 and $6,000 on this documentary so far. And by the way, good for them. I don't begrudge anybody making money as a content creator. After all, that's what we do here. But I do have a little bit of a problem with the over-sensationalized nature of this entire thing. After all, this Yes Theory so-called documentary is 7 days with the man. Actually, they changed the title of it. It used to be Confirmed Aliens Exist. Now they changed it to Claiming Aliens Exist. The original title was 7 Days with the Man Confirming Aliens Exist Under Oath in Congress. They changed the title. And good for them. It's a little less clickbaity because what Mr. Grusch is doing is making claims. He never confirmed anything.
That was, I think, an inflection point for me where I'm like, okay, there's something going on that's not adversarial tech, talking to these people that were literally in tears telling me this stuff because it was this emotional thing that they could not process analytically what they were seeing. It was like totally beyond their comprehension. So for what it's worth.
Something being beyond somebody's comprehension is not proof of aliens. Someone being very emotional about an experience that they had is not proof of aliens. And that's the problem that I have. So, good for Yes Theory. They made somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $10,000, $3,000 to $6,000 so far on this documentary. A documentary which has zero evidence, which was originally launched with an incredibly clickbait title, claiming that this man confirmed aliens exist under oath to Congress, when no, he just claimed aliens exist under oath to Congress. But I will say I'm surprised that they made that change, because one of the people who complained about the original title, in full disclosure, again, pardon the pun, was me. I complained publicly that was a misleading clickbait garbage title. So good for them if they heard me and the other people who objected to their use of a completely factually inaccurate clickbait title and changed it. Good for them.
I've never seen anything, believe it or not. So I came in as non-believers.
I've never seen anything, believe it or not. And he came into this as a non-believer. Well, doesn't everybody come into this as an agnostic at least, or a non-believer? I don't get it. So what we have in this documentary then is essentially, well, I have a few more. We'll share at least one more clip here. And this is a problem for me as well. Because again, with conflicting statements in the previous documentary made with this Jesse person or interview, he claimed he could go to Dopser and get approval to talk about more things, but he didn't. It's too much trouble to do that. And in this telling of events, he did go to Dopser or the DOD trying to get approval to talk about more things at the hearing.
How do you expect this to go?
I think there's, the people who have been kind of following the subject for years, I think it might be a little bit of letdown because I can't necessarily
Yeah.
say everything I know. You know, it's
Letdown.
like,
It was
and
the
I'm
biggest
working on
letdown
trying to
ever.
get more things cleared for the hearing.
Yeah.
You know,
Like still.
literally as
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
working,
yeah,
I'm talking to the DoD security office,
Wow.
like as I was getting off the plane,
Yeah.
like, please get something approved by 10 a.m.
Yeah.
because I wanted to be able to provide more detail.
There is nothing preventing him from providing any details to the best of my knowledge or understanding of this situation. Remember, he went to Dobster and claimed that he wanted to be able to talk about alien bodies in the possession of the United States government. They checked into that and decided. I'm sorry if you heard a big crash. That would be the two boys that live in my home, my children, probably wrestling or something. I hear them laughing and coursing around. I apologize. One of these days, they're going to come crashing through the ceiling doing a live broadcast. So this situation is funny to me. But just to be clear, he was cleared to talk about alien bodies and to talk about alien crash retrievals, which means by definition, none of those things are classified, or he wouldn't have been cleared to discuss those things publicly. But somehow there is this mistaken claim or belief that he can't provide any more details because the details are classified. I think this is one big bluff. I think this is one big bluff, and he shouldn't be allowed to continue. And here's the two profiteers. The name of this Jesse's YouTube channel escapes me. Somebody in the live chat, we have both these guys here seated next to Grusch, who made an interview or a documentary about him. The one closest to me here is the gentleman from Yes Theory with this latest piece that generated between $3,000 and $6,000. However, the other one is Jesse Michaels. If you know what the name of his YouTube channel is, we'll tell you. Let me see if it's just Jesse Michaels. Yeah, it's just Jesse Michaels. Okay, so great. He's in the big bucks. Jesse Michaels' video of Dave Grusch got 2 million views. So someone, we're going to have to. 1 second here. I'm going to have to do a little quick math. How many thousands? And I want to be sure. How many thousands are in a million? There are 1,000 thousands in a million. So what we have to do in order to calculate how much Jesse Michaels made is do 2,000. And if their CPM is similar to mine, that would be $10 per 1,000 video views. Up to 2 million views. That would mean that Jesse Michaels has made somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 for his 2 million viewed YouTube video. He made $20,000. So between these two guys, they made somewhere between $20,000 and $30,000 off of Dave Grusch. And I just want to make sure that we put on the record that, listen, I have to be very honest here, but I'm going to try to be careful in my speech so that I don't misarticulate my point. If I made $20,000 to $30,000 off of somebody I was interviewing, I think I would. I have to be honest. I think I would lose my objectivity, and I would just defend them no matter what. Because man, I could certainly use $20,000 to $30,000. That would make or break my entire year. So, although I've been incredibly harsh about people making money off of these completely unproven stories, I do have to be honest in saying that, I'm a content creator myself. And I think that it's important that we have to at least recognize that these guys are not objective. They knew they were going to make this amount of money off this guy. So could it be that they went at him with kid gloves here? They didn't do the real and thorough research that a truly objectionable or truly objective journalist would have? I think that it's fair to say that they're biased because they knew they were going to make this money. They're palling around with them. They're hiking with them. They're going to dinner with them. They're going to parties with them. They're hanging out with them. This is not the work of objective researchers. This is the work of cheerleaders. But good for these cheerleaders, because they were able to rack up $20,000 to $30,000 between the two of them just for doing a story or an interview on Grusch or a so-called documentary on Grusch.
It's like a certain thing where it's like, shouldn't it be the president saying this stuff? Like, I don't want to be the purveyor of disclosure because I don't have all the data.
Yeah.
I'm not in that leadership position, and I'm just trying to, use a public pressure to kind of, to get the executive branch to make a decision on what.
Yeah, so here we have the reluctant hero narrative. Oh, I don't want to be the person that has to bring disclosure because, the reluctant hero narrative has been used by virtually all 14 of the previous so-called UFO whistleblowers that we covered here. By the way, you can check our previous broadcasts. There is 2 videos, each titled A Not So Brief History of UFO Whistleblowers. We did 7 in part 1 and 7 in part 2. Almost all 14 of them were the reluctant hero narrative. Oh, I didn't want to come forward with this, and this is real dangerous to my reputation, and may destroy my career, but people have the right to know. This is such important information, and the government doesn't have the right to hide this from you, so I came forward. The reluctant hero narrative has been used by all 14 of the previous so-called UFO whistleblowers that made very, very similar claims to Mr. Grusch, by the way, and had equally no evidence or proof of their claims, and some of them profited from their participation in these UFO-related stories for many, many years and never, ever proved any of their claims. I think that's relevant.
What to release.
Yeah.
Did all the checks I could possibly do, within my, kind of official capacity, realized it was real, and then during that investigation, I had a lot of pushback that was very unfortunate, reprisals against me and stuff.
Again, with claims of reprisals. And I just want to make it very clear that I am not saying he's lying when he claims he had reprisals or retaliation against him for whatever activities he was undertaking. However, it's important to point out that his claims of retaliation or claims of reprisals are just that, claims that he has provided no evidence or no proof of. Now, on that one, I will say I probably have to give him a pass because that's involved in a legal situation now. For those unaware, Mr. Grusch filed a whistleblower complaint with the Intelligence Community Inspector General, whose task it is to investigate that complaint and then, take the appropriate next steps or whatever. In time, I'm hopeful that the Intelligence Community Inspector General will confirm for us whether Mr. Grusch's claims were warranted or not. And then also, in fairness, apparently Mr. Grusch's claim or whistleblower complaint was called urgent and credible. And there's when we get into another lie, because the people selling this story conflate it. The Intelligence Community Inspector General saying his claims were urgent and credible. His retaliation claims or his whistleblower complaint was urgent and credible. They conflated that with the Intelligence Community Inspector General saying that his alien body and alien spaceship claims were urgent and credible. He never said that. And that conflation, I believe, was intentional in order to help sell the narrative and sell the story.
And that kind of was what led me to file the whistleblower complaint, A, for my own protection, but B, was to kind of sound the alarm.
He wanted to sound the alarm. I'm just kind of fascinated with this whole, this is a whistleblower. A whistleblower who so far, he must be blowing a dog whistle because he has no evidence. And, I'm getting attacked for saying he has he gave the evidence to this person. Okay, he has no evidence we're allowed to see. Language is important. I'll say it like that from now on. I won't say he has no evidence. I'll say he has anonymous sources. Nobody is allowed to know who they are. And he gave information to people within the government, but we're not allowed to see it. It still doesn't do anything to move the so-called proverbial ball forward. And in my view, it doesn't do anything to, do anything for disclosure. This is just another evidenceless circle jerk based on anonymous sources, right? Doesn't anybody agree with me that like it's a little too convenient? Oh, there's all this evidence. Can't show it to you though, but we have all this evidence. There's all these other corroborating witnesses that you can't know even who the names of them are. There's all these corroborating witnesses that no one else is allowed to talk to and confirm told me these things. But trust me, bro, these other witnesses exist and told me these things. At some point, this whole thing just gets comical to me. It's comical to me that we're at 120 plus days now. People are generating thousands and thousands of dollars on this. And while we're on the subject of all the money that people are generating, News Nation, we shouldn't really leave them out. UFO whistleblower, full interview. Let's see what that's probably up to 10 million views or something like that. I don't even want to do the math. It's hard to find that original interviewer. It's if somebody can send a link to me, I can't. There's just so News Nation did so many videos about Dave Grusch. It's hard to find the original at this point. But I think last I checked, it was at 4 million views. So that would be something like $40,000 that News Nation generated, and that's just one of hundreds of stories that they have run about Dave Grusch. It's absolutely pretty problematic to me that so many people are generating so much money off of a story that we're 120 days in so far, and there's no evidence yet. Like I said before, and I'll stand by that statement, at some point you have to ask yourself, how much money needs to be generated before he's going to show the evidence of his original claims made 120 days ago? I think it is relevant to say, stop making all this money and show us the goods, or get the hell out of here. Put up or shut up. And while we're on the subject of putting up or shutting up, these people, these disclosure warriors out there who love to slag me and anybody else who asks critical questions or, points out what may be inconvenient facts to people, like the fact that we're up to 120 days and Grusch hasn't proven any of his original claims yet. I think that their toxic attacks are not very well placed. After all, I'd love to find out tomorrow that aliens are real and we're in possession of alien spacecraft, intact debris, alien biologics or non-human biologics. That would certainly make the world a much more fun and interesting place, and would be vindication for me, having invested so much of my life's time and energy into the study of these subjects and these stories. I would love it if tomorrow, just to put on the record, I would love it if tomorrow I found out the aliens are real, all these stories have been real, or at least some of these stories have been real, and that there was a vast government cover-up, and that they are in possession of alien bodies, because that would be an extreme form of vindication for me. It would mean I didn't waste my life and my time buying every book, watching every documentary, interviewing every expert I could on these strange or esoteric subjects. It would mean I didn't waste any of my time. It would mean I'm not crazy, right? I would love it if we found out tomorrow that the aliens are real and they're here and all of these things are true. I would absolutely, positively love it. so the attacks on me just for asking questions are not fair. Why don't they go attack Ross Coulthard, who's made more money on the Grusch story than perhaps anyone so far? And by the way, I don't know that for a fact. It's just a guess. It's my opinion and speculation based on what I've seen. And why don't they attack Ross Coulthard? Because he could bring you disclosure tomorrow. He could tell you where that giant spaceship is. Or what about George Knapp, who claims he knows where the element 115 is buried, and someday he's going to dig it up? He's holding back disclosure. I'm not holding back disclosure. Your heroes are holding back disclosure. And by the way, David Grusch is holding up disclosure because he knows the names of the programs and where the alien bodies are stored, and he won't tell us anything. He won't tell us any of that. So there's your disclosure, gatekeepers. I'm not ruining disclosure. All I'm doing is asking questions. This Dave Grusch and Ross Coulthard and Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, they're the people that are holding up disclosure. And what about Stephen Greer? This guy's been collecting millions. He's made millions and millions of dollars claiming that he could summon spaceships. Well, he's made millions and millions of dollars on aliens and UFOs as a whole. I don't know how much he's made on his $10 app. He sells a $10 app. You could just give him $10 and you could summon the aliens and the spaceships, right? Couldn't he give you disclosure? Just summon the spaceships, bring them here, and we'll show them to everybody. But all he's able to summon, apparently, are flares, because Stephen Greer has provably taken money from people for a live event in which flares were dropped from military airplanes in an exercise that he claimed were alien spaceships. Those are the people ruining disclosure for you. And by the way, we'll just take a moment to recognize and understand that if you are one of the gatekeepers of disclosure, you're stopping disclosure. And it's also important that we recognize and understand that if you were one of the people, if you're one of these people who have absolutely smoking gun evidence and proof of alien visitation, of life on Earth and all this other stuff, then you're the one that's holding up disclosure. That disclosure could come tomorrow if all these people would just put up the evidence that they claim they have. The skeptics are not the bad guy here for asking questions. Skeptics or people that are skeptical or not all chips in, not just, let's just accept the narrative. The aliens are real and the government has them and there's a cover up and all this. Yeah. Well, what if the cover up is Ross Coulthard is part of the cover up? Dave Grusch is part of the cover up. What about Elizondo? Claimed they had all those exotic materials, maybe alien. He covered that up. The UFO celebrities are part of the cover-up. What about James Fox, who claimed he interviewed a bunch of people, and if the government doesn't start telling the truth, he's going to start dropping those bombs. Drop them. Disclosure could come tomorrow. If only James Fox, Ross Coulthard, George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell, Bob Lazar, Dave Grusch, Lou Elizondo, and everybody else who claimed or implied even that they have the smoking gun evidence or proof of alien visitation on Earth, disclosure could come tomorrow if those people would just put up the evidence. And really, you're gonna attack skeptics like Mick West or me, and you're gonna give all those people who claim they have the goods but can't share them, you're gonna give those guys a pass? How is that fair? It's not. But in order to understand what I'm talking about here, you're going to have to take a hard look, and you're going to have to, at these people selling you these stories. We've given you some examples of just the thousands and tens of thousands of dollars that can be made off of a story. This Grusch story is based entirely on anonymous sources and zero evidence. And look how much money everybody is making on the story so far. It's incredible to me. I'm going to have to come up with my own stories with anonymous sources and zero evidence. And we too can make tens of thousands of dollars. Now, will I likely do that? Probably not, because I think that's grifty and it's scammy. But it is what it is. And this is where we're at, and this is where we find ourselves. Now, friends, would be a good time to remind you that a lot of our videos are getting demonetized here. I believe, it's my personal belief, that just because we're going against the clickbaity, over-sensationalized, garbage peddling clickbait narratives that are being pushed on many popular platforms, we're pushing back, and for whatever reason, our videos are being critical of these claims, are being demonetized. So is the lesson that you can sell all the fake stories you want? Ross Coulthard still has a story completely and totally fake. It's still monetized on his YouTube channel. Linda Moulton Howe has several stories that have been proven completely and totally fake, including one where she lied and said that a CGI artist's photos of aliens was given to her by a government insider. That's still on her YouTube channel and fully monetized. Yet our video showing the proof that Linda Moulton Howe's so-called orange gray alien story was completely and totally fake, those videos get demonetized. I don't think it's fair. But this is where we're at, and this is where we find ourselves. Our show exists on the PBS model here, which is we're just going to create this content, which I truly believe is in the genre of a public benefit. We try to be a public benefit with what we produce here and what we accomplish here. And thanks to the generosity and kindness and support of people from around the world, we're able to continue doing that. So our model follows PBS. We put things out. It's free to listen to. You don't have to throw a couple bucks in our hat, but we thank all of you that have been. And for all of you that have been, I offer you my sincere thanks. So we're going to take a short break. The show is not over. I always have to preface that. Let's get that banner up. People see these bumpers and they think the show is over. I'm going to have to come up with a better way of doing this, but the show is not over. We'll be right back after this short message about how you too can support the show. And after this short message, I will be taking comments and questions from you there in the live chat. Please put them in all capital letters, and we'll read any remaining super chats. For those unaware, we read every super chat. We thank every PayPal donator, Patreon supporter. If you become a channel member during the show, we give you a nice shout out and a thank you. My thanks to all of you. We'll be right back. Here's the man with the golden voice to let you know how you can help support our show.
Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Wonderful people like you who enjoy this show send pledges in the form of super chats, super stickers, super thanks, PayPal, or Cash App. Instructions for how to help are in the description. You can also join our Patreon, and for as little as $1 a month you can get extra content. Patreon supporters get a backstage pass, early access to all our production videos before they are distributed publicly, Stephen Cambion's music, private writings, a monthly show journal, and more. You can also become a YouTube channel member for $5 a month. A YouTube membership includes all of the Patreon benefits, plus a special members badge, priority reply to video comments, and the live chat, plus a monthly members-only video. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors, for supporting Truth Seekers. Thank you for your generosity and support. Truthseekers is a viewer-supported show. Now there's a great way to support these broadcasts and show your support. Please be sure and check out our merchandise store. Links to our 2 merchandise online stores are in the links to this video or podcast. The Amazon storefront ships super quickly in the United States, Great Britain, and many more places. Amazon may not ship to your country or location. If that's the case, hit our second merchandise link in the description and visit our Redbubble storefront. Merchandise from our Redbubble storefront ships worldwide, but may take longer than Amazon. We've got a great deal of super high quality merchandise for you to choose from, including t-shirts, phone cases, sweatshirts, and even pillows. The feedback from our products have been overwhelmingly great. Quality products and fast shipping. People all over the world are buying some merchandise and showing their support of the show. Praise the cash. Praise the cash. Praise the cash. We thank you all, kind and generous benefactors who are buying some merchandise and helping us to continue this journey.
All right, friends. So we are back. And I do want to take a moment just to mention that we're still sort of tweaking a lot of strange things here with the new set. I have to get some cable ties and do cable management, and some things aren't really working the way they're supposed to yet. But I've been a one-man army here trying to get this worked out. You'll notice we have some guest chairs right in front of me, and we will be beginning having in-person studio guests maybe as early as next week. So we're real excited about that. One of the reasons we build a new, bigger set is to accommodate in-person guests. And for those unaware, there's a separate entrance. This is in my home, but we have a separate entrance here. It's over in this back corner over here, a door to the outside. We have a powder room, our own bathroom here for guests and things like that. If you are local to the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Delaware area, perhaps, or New York, if you're willing to do the drive, I live in the Philadelphia area. So just, or maybe it's best if you want to see how long the drive would be for you, is to I live in a town just outside of Philadelphia called Warminster, Pennsylvania. So if you Google Warminster, Pennsylvania post office, you can get a little bit of an idea of, what your ride time or, road trip time would be to get here. Any guest that comes here, we're going to treat to lunch or dinner or breakfast or whatever, depending on the time of the day. I have a table over in the other corner here with some Truthseekers swag and merchandise for our guests. Email me at truthseekershow@gmail.com. At least for a while, we're going to be prioritizing in-person, in-studio guests rather than virtual ones. And I'm sure we'll balance that out eventually because, certainly many more people that are potential guests for us here on our show. They live too far, so it's just obvious they'll be doing, a virtual appearance here. But for a while, at least, I'd like to prioritize. I can't wait to have real conversations with, two people in the same room. I think it's much more, I just think it's better. And there's a reason that podcasts that insist on that, like Joe Rogan's, do so much better than podcasts that are constantly having virtual guests. I think audiences just respond to that. They think that it is much, much better. We're still working on the live set and the live situation. Lots of gremlins have snuck in here. And even that, I have to adjust this camera. It's a little bit sideways or off. But hey, I will say that it's interesting that we have been able to accomplish this, especially, on a reasonable budget. So we're going to be taking comments and questions for a little while off to the live chat. Wreaking Havoc. Yeah, you may be the first one. Wreaking Havoc is perhaps the closest to me, but I'm aware of Rogue Status, who I haven't seen in a while. By the way, shout out to Rogue Status. I truly appreciate Rogue Status. For those unaware, I built a sunroom at the cabin, and I had to wire the sunroom. And although I did learn to wire 120 volt like house, I learned how to wire light switches and lights and electric outlets while I was building the cabin. I'm really bad at it. I'm terrible at it. So a kind and generous viewer of ours, who I haven't seen in some time, I hope he's doing well, named Rogue Status, recognized that in the live chat and said, "Hey, I'll come and wire it for you. I'm an electrician." And I said, "You're hired." Well, I didn't say you're hired until I said, "Well, what do you want to be paid?" And he said, "You don't have to pay me. I'll just do you a favor." I went, "You're hired." And by the way, he got the entire project done in like a couple hours. And it truly would have taken me a couple of days. Wreaking Havoc is another one of those guys that lives very close to me, like Rogue Status. So if you live very close to me, and by the way, you people volunteering may also want to be aware that I haven't shown it yet, but we do have a polygraph machine here now. And I have been diligently crash coursing myself in how to be a polygraph examiner. I'm even thinking of joining the American Polygraph Examiners Association and getting the certificate or whatever. We're going to have a lie detector here. And so one of the things that I plan to do with Wreaking Havoc, who has a lot of, it's enough to say that Wreaking Havoc is, I don't even know how to describe what's going on with him. He's somewhat of, let's say it like this, Wreaking Havoc is or claims to be somewhat of a magnet of paranormal activity. He sees, ghosts or aliens or shadow people or orbs and all kinds of things that he films. So we're gonna bring him here and grill him. We're gonna hook him up to the lie detector. And by the way, I'm not gonna be nasty about that. I don't believe that the lie detector can tell if he's honestly telling the truth about his paranormal experience, but it will be able to tell whether he believes that these are true and real and actual paranormal conversations, right? Lunar Sparkle says, "Are you still going to go to do the polygraph?" Yeah, I listen, we're going to be kind about it, but I did call it the hot seat. I got a special chair. I got fire lights around the hot seat. It looks like the chair is on fire with the lighting that we have. It's a lie detector machine, a polygraph machine with all the sensors of a standard polygraph. And we're going to be hooking people up to it and calling it the hot seat. I thought that was kind of funny. Mark D. Truthseeker says, "Look how open Stephen is about his life. That tells a lot about his character and intent." Well, I appreciate that, even though I'm getting attacked, right, for platforming a guest that I probably, and honestly, I probably shouldn't have platformed that guest. I should have known better. The problem comes with sometimes, which is a mistake I won't likely make again, is that, I have in the past just sort of identified people in this space as good guys, right? Oh, he's a good guy because he's talking smack about David Wilcock's grifts. But that's not always, just because somebody's talking smack about one content creator doesn't mean that they are one of the good guys. I should have dug deeper. Dead Minds podcast is here. Yeah, and you should come and be a guest. It says, "Keep up the good work, brother." I appreciate that. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It's much, much appreciated. Brian Kingsx says, "I'm 8.5 hours away in East Tennessee, Jonesboro. I'd consider the drive to see you." Cool guy. Yeah. If you listen, anybody. Oh, this cricket! Shut up, cricket! There we go. I have to. I got some bug spray in the laundry room that my wife has. I'm gonna go try to deal with this cricket issue. Every year we get a few that somehow manage their way in the house. And then it becomes this, usually I'm trying to find it at 3:00 in the morning when I can't sleep because of the chirping, right? But we appreciate that, Brian Kings X7. We appreciate your willingness to do that. And if you gotta be able to talk about something, though. I don't want you to just come here. I mean, you can come and just watch the show. You could sit there and just chime in if you don't really have some stories of your own to sell or tell or whatever. But yeah, you're more than welcome, and we'll buy you dinner. And I do have There's a sofa bed here. So, you know, if you're, Brian, if you're going that far, if anybody's really driving that far, you could certainly crash here and leave the next day. So you don't have to do those 16 hours in a car in one day. That would be awful, right? That would be terrible. But we thank you all for your kindness, generosity, and support, and certainly for helping us to praise the cash. Now, one other thing I want to make sure that we put out there. Oh no, why does it say 24 hours? I scheduled it wrong. All right, I'm going to have to fix this. I'm already going to have to fix this. I dated it the wrong date. Damn it. How do I fix it? Oh, edit Premiere. No, that isn't going to do it. I have to find the date. Damn it. All right, I'm going to do it off. I'm going to fix this off air. Apparently, I set it one day in advance. So I've made a video about this issue with Ryan Gable and this other content creator slagging me for platforming Ryan Gable, which I firmly believe he could care less. That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. I think this other content creator, who, by the way, has slagged me for multiple videos, made multiple hit piece videos about me. By the way, I just want to put it out there on the record that I think that people should. Oh, I did find it. Okay, so it will be October 4th at 12 a.m. That this video will premiere. I think it should be a requirement that before you start making hit piece videos on me on the internet, you have to speak to or become fully informed with how that worked out for everybody else. Not so good. So I've got a video, and we're going to do it at midnight, and that is it's 11:10 p.m. right now. So we'll wrap things up here. I'll get a little break. I'll be in the live chat for this one. I think it's about a 35 or 40-minute video, and this will premiere tonight at midnight. Or tomorrow at midnight, whatever. It'll premiere in 49 minutes from now at midnight. And the video is titled "About Those Corey Good Videos and Recent Complaints About Me or My Show." For those unaware, somebody made some complaints about somebody that we platformed here, and then people were asking about the situation with why did I delete or why did I remove the Corey Good videos? Those things are all related, because this other content creator that's slagging me is also complaining that I'm making money off Corey Good, and he's not allowed to. So I made a decision about what to do about those grievances and complaints. It's all going to be in this video. If you do like this kind of drama, you'll love this video. If you don't, don't watch it. But I thought it important to make a public statement about my views about people who make anti-Semitic content or content that is, let's call it, Nazi apologist related material or Holocaust denying related material. I strongly condemn that, and everybody that knows me knows. First of all, I have a lot of Jewish friends. I have Jewish guests here. I would never knowingly support or be seen to co-sign for or give any kind of a pass to somebody making that kind of nonsense. I have no tolerance for that. I also happen to be Polish. So, maybe that's not relevant to some people until you accept and understand the atrocities committed against the Polish people by the Nazis during World War II. Nobody Polish would support any Nazi ideologies. Well, I don't want to say nobody. By and large, it is a well-known thing that the Polish people have no love for the Nazis, and not after the way they've ravaged our country, raped and pillaged and occupied our sovereign country during World War II. No Polish person I know would support anybody that is glorifying Nazism or excusing the Holocaust or Nazism or taking part in revisionist history, or we wouldn't support any of that. At least no Polish person I know would. Now, I'm sure there's always exceptions to the rule. Maybe there's some Polish Nazis I'm not aware of, or Nazi sympathizers or support. I don't know. but it's just a general thing. You should just know that Polish people, by and large, don't support that, and would not knowingly support somebody that is promoting those ideals, those ideologies, that false history or revisionist history. We just would not do that. You know, and I also happen to have a Jewish family member, and when I saw what that person was putting out, I was horrified, because I have somebody who married into my family that happens to be Jewish, great person, and I wouldn't want them to think that I promote or support those hateful ideologies. Never. And also, one thing that I'm certain that I left out of that video is that this person slagging me for platforming that person claims they told me. Anybody that knows him knows that he's not the kind of person to just sit on a piece of information he can use to attack somebody he doesn't like for 3 or 4 years. We're all supposed to believe that he knew about this for years and years and years, but this is the first time he's bringing it up. No, he's a piss poor lazy researcher, so I think somebody sent him a link, and then, oh, this is an attack vector. I could go make Steven look bad for this. And that's what he chose to do. And by the way, that's what this is about. And we've talked about this before. I have sort of a pet peeve about this lately. And unfortunately, I'm not making friends with any content creators, any podcasters, show hosts. No. I mean, I'll be friendly, but I'm going to keep my distance, because what I have seen and experienced is that if you become friends or friendly with other content producers or show hosts, they tend to be very kind and supportive to you until your show becomes bigger than theirs. And then if that happens, no matter how great they spoke of you in the past, no matter how supportive you've been of them or respectful you've been of them, no matter how you have always helped them and supported them, if your show becomes bigger than them, they stab you in the back. We've had it happen to us here how many times now? And like I said, the people that decide, oh, I'm going to start slagging Steve, go talk to everybody else. Find out how that worked out for you. And then also, I don't want to toot my own horn, so I'm not going to name names here when I say this next thing, but ask around. There have been many, many different content creators, both on YouTube or Spreaker, audio podcast producers, whatever, that I have gone out of my way to help, even if they didn't ask me. Oh, stupid. I'm going to kill that cricket. There was one situation where someone was getting very, very low views, and they were doing really good videos, and they didn't ask me for help. But I noticed that they had their YouTube channel arranged very wrong. In other words, they were making live videos, but their live videos were not listed right at the front. Mostly what they did was live videos, and yet their live videos were sort of hidden on their channel. I showed them that, and I even sent them tutorials on how to fix that and put their live shows front and center. Long story short, they doubled their views in the space of a week because I helped them. So, you know, I've gone out of my way to help so many different content creators, especially if somebody asks me for help, like, hey, Steven, you know, what are you doing with this or with this, or how does this help your show, or how do you promote your show? I will show anybody anything that I'm doing that has worked for me. I will share with them what didn't work well for me, things that I failed at. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all going to make mistakes. I made a mistake in this case. I freely admit that, and I apologize for that, but I'm not going to be held. I will be held responsible for killing that cricket. I'm not going to be held responsible, however. I've said this so many different times here, but it bears repeating again because stupid people just don't understand this. I can never, ever possibly know every single thing that any guest I interview here has said. You know, I have never, ever there's no way that you could possibly know that somebody said those hateful, hurtful things unless you listen to every bit of their content they've ever produced and happen to find it when you got to it. And that's an unreasonable request. There have been situations here in the past when I interviewed somebody and it turns out 21 or 22 years, I think it was, before I interviewed them, they got arrested for a criminal act of theft. And now I'm hosting criminals. I'm platforming criminals. And I should have known this. And I should have ran a background check on it. Come on, man. It's completely and totally unreasonable. Now, I will say that I hate that, hey, we're just having a conversation argument. You should know. But, I'll say this too. I didn't think that I needed to check. Maybe that was a failing on my part. And if so, I apologize for it. I'm going to try to be a lot more careful going forward. Dead Minds Podcast says, don't kill the cricket. No, what I do is I mute myself and then I yell at it and it shuts up for a while. Watch. I just yelled, shut the hell up, cricket. And now my family's probably like, what the hell's going on in this show? It's probably CIA tech. Yeah, CIA nanotech. God, it didn't shut up long. CIA nanotech says Mark D. Truthseekers. I hate that, though, because it seems very unprofessional to me. But you guys know I'm doing a show in my house here. And we'll likely always do that because I don't think I want to spend the money to rent a studio if I could just do it in my house. And plus, I'm much more comfortable here. A great comment from Commander Cronus says, Dave Grusch is Captain America. He started the disclosure process. It's time to accept the reality of ET contact and understand what that means for climate change. I hope you're kidding. Jesus. Yeah. You remember the roach. The UFO Jesus had roaches in his house crawling around while he was doing a live stream. I had heard something about that. Kind of gross. Yeah, crickets are one thing, but roaches are worse. Bottled water, that would have been funny if it started right back instantly. It pretty much did. I just yelled at it and it's still doing that. Now I got to go. And what's terrible is I got a lot of junk in here in the other side of the room here. It's a huge room. And so there's a lot of junk over there. I'm going to have to move everything, trying to find out where the hell this damn cricket is and get to it, right? Yeah, exactly. Paul Shields says, running a background check on somebody you're going to have a conversation with. Well, yeah, this is the unreasonable expectation. It's like, oh, you should have known he was a criminal, Stephen, because he got arrested for theft 21 years before I interviewed him, and I didn't know that, and I'm the bad guy? I'm the bad guy for not knowing that. Yeah, but see, here, that's when you know that these people don't care that I interviewed somebody that stole something 21 years ago. They're just trying to slag me and damage my show. And so they're going to use anything that they can as an attack vector. And I talk about in this video, I'm just removing the attack vectors, That's what I plan to do. I plan on I'm going to remove the attack vectors. And I'm going to say, I will also say this, that other content creator that's slagging me about this situation, he's not going to stop. And nothing that I say or do in this situation will be enough. He's going to keep it up because he's an obsessive, bitter, angry, jealous little man. And all of this started the moment that my channel got more subscribers than his or more views than his. It's just the way that some of these people are. And I got to say, man, I have been in the entertainment business. I spent 20 plus years in the entertainment business. And sure, there's a lot of egos. You get an entertainer, especially a famous one, the guy's got some ego on him. But I have never seen more backstabbing than I have from content creators. It is from YouTube content creators specifically. I can now chart when somebody's going to start stabbing me in the back. This has happened so many times. And the chart goes, as soon as I pass them in YouTube views or subscribers, then the knives come out. Let's stab him in the back. We can't let him get bigger than us because I'm a bitter, angry little man. It's sad and that's unfortunate. And I'm being honest, I used to be one of those bitter, angry, sour grapes guys, right? When I was in the music business, especially, when I was in the music business, you're coming up in this local band scene and you're playing, around as far as you could drive to, and, with the van and whatever. And when another band that I was aware of in the local community or scene got a big gig, right? Like, let's say, a band I knew got an opening gig for Danzig or something, I would get so angry. I would get so jealous, so sour graped and pissed at them. I was just jealous, and I was blaming, my lack of success on others. Anybody that was more successful than me was the enemy. Anybody that broke through, especially, God help them if they got a recording contract or a tour, right? I just was green with envy. I was just so toxic. I was toxic in negative emotions towards people that were successful. And through a series of strange events, I got over that. And that's a whole story in and of itself. But as soon as I changed my attitude about that, I found an incredible amount more success. I started getting more and more opportunities. And then I also learned to be kind to the people. And congratulations, man. I didn't get that gig, but I'm glad you did. That's what I would say to some of these people. Or, hey, I didn't get a record deal yet, but I'm so glad that you did. You guys earned it. Because the truth is, everybody earns what they get for the most part. Yes, certainly there are going to be times when you get lucky or you exploit some situation to your advantage, maybe. But by and large, you get what you work for. I truly believe that. And I've seen it in my own life. If I'm toxic and jealous and nasty and blaming everybody else for my failure, I stayed a failure the whole time I did that. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Cats eat critics. Dead Minds podcast says, you need a cat. That critic won't last long. Yeah. No, I just fixed it. Let me check just to make sure that I did fix it. I believe that I did fix it. No. The start time on my video should be, it should say, premieres in 33 minutes. So, hey, friends, I still haven't eaten any dinner today. What I'm going to do is this video that we're premiering at midnight in 33 minutes, by the way, I'm going to copy. Oh, wait a minute. It's already pinned. It's pinned in the live chat. The link to the new video, which we're premiering at midnight tonight, is in the live chat on YouTube. I'm going to tweet it out as well. Let me tweet that out so that we're sure we got that. So I'm going to tweet out the link. I'm just going to put join me in the live chat for this premiere. So I've tweeted it out. It's a good idea if you haven't already followed me on Twitter. It's at Stephen Cambion. If you, or you can follow me on Facebook as well, but I post everything to Twitter. Also be sure to join our Discord. I would certainly appreciate that. So any more questions or comments for me, please put them in all caps. I think we're going to wrap things up here. Flav 420 is here, says, keep up the great work, Stephen. I think I know who that is. And thanks for the comment. Yeah. So we're gonna wrap things up here. So I'm gonna try to throw something down my throat, but I'm gonna be in the live chat. I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has about that situation. I'm really sort of turning the page on things, and I will be turning the page on a lot more things. There's going to be a lot of changes to our show here. Now, some people may think that those changes aren't positive, but making the best decisions that I can, making changes to the show for the betterment of the show and the future of the show, and I hope that I have your support in doing that. I'm going to Be in the live chat. It is now. Let's see. We'll check it out. All right. So the video that we're premiering in 31 minutes will be in the pinned in the live chat. I'm gonna. That live chat's gonna end. I'll add it to the description of this video as well. So we'll do everything we can to make sure that people attend that and so that they get the message. People are asking me a lot of questions about those Corey Good videos. I kind of explained the situation in this new video. I'm just going to say complaints video. So if you're looking for that video, it's right in our video section. But I'm going to put it in the description of this video titled Dave Grusch over 120 days now, no evidence of aliens or spaceships. But the link should be pinned in the live chat, and the link is also now in the description of this live broadcast. So I'm going to bounce on out of here and I'm going to try to throw something down my throat. You know, I kind of stop eating late at night, but I forget to eat. I just get so busy working or doing things that I forget to eat. The good news is that my diet's doing well. I think I'm 23 pounds down now. I'm almost back to my original pre-married weight, which is a miracle. And thanks to those that have asked, several people I know are on similar diets now, but I always tell people, make sure that you consult your healthcare professional. Don't listen to me. I'm not a doctor. All right. So, yeah, Flav 420 says, I'm usually on YouTube. Yeah, well, thanks for holding down the live chat. And we want to thank all of our live chatters tonight, including those on pill.net, on Rumble, on Twitch, on Twitter Live, Facebook Live, as well as our main hub here on YouTube. We thank each and every one of you for joining us. I want to thank you, kind and generous benefactors. We'll thank them again. I'm not here. This isn't happening. Nick Kreitman, and we thank Dead Minds Podcast, and we also thank Brian KingsX7 for their kindness, generosity, and support. I will take a moment to just check in with the PayPal donators. And for those unaware, you can also support our show through PayPal or Patreon or becoming a channel member. We want to thank North for a kind and generous $25 PayPal pledge. We want to thank Maria, for a kind and generous $150 PayPal pledge. And Maria says, keep up the great work. Love your shows. Hope this helps. Absolutely, Maria. And thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. The MVP of PayPal pledgers lately. Thanks for your kindness, generosity, and support. It's much, much appreciated. I'm blown away by the generosity of all you kind and generous people, including Maria and North. By the way, if you're going to send anything through PayPal, give me your chat room user ID. Just add a note. Give me a chat room user ID. That would be very, very helpful. So I'm going to get something. I'm going to get something to eat. I will be in the live chat. Remember the link to the next video. I hate to do this so quickly, but it's important to make. I wanted to make that video in a separate thing so that I could just, if somebody asks me questions, I could just say, here's the link, yeah, so we thank all of you kind and generous benefactors. We thank our wonderful chat room moderators. We thank Ian, the man with the golden voice, and everybody else who is contributing to our success here, including all of you. A big part of our show is the live interaction. It wouldn't be as great a show if it wasn't live and you weren't here to be a part of it. We want to thank all of you kind and generous benefactors. I also want to take a moment to recognize that there are a great number of people, unfortunately, making some anti-Semitic, history revisionist garbage videos and information or podcasts. I'm going to do a separate video, which I began my research on today, hopefully this week, if not next week, just on false Jewish conspiracies. If you've been in conspiracy land long enough, I'm sure you've seen some of this stuff. Honestly, most of it escapes me because I just turn off when I see that stuff. I don't follow it. I don't, I'm aware of those things that are being pushed and promoted, unfortunately. And so maybe we can turn this situation into a learning moment, right? A teachable moment, I think they call that. And I will, make a video that is focused on dispelling that false information, those false conspiracies, that revisionist history, and all of that stuff. So that's all I got for you, friends. In 25 minutes or something, I'll have more for you. And the video is in our video section. It's pinned in the live chat, and it's in the description of this video. I'll be in the live chat to answer any questions or concerns that anyone has. So that's all I got for you for now, friends. Until next time, my name is Stephen Cambion. Good night, and God bless all of you.